The piece that I ultimately went with dates back to 2017 involving Scott Van Pelt. In this short 2-minute monologue, he ends up covering the meteoric rise and fall of Aaron Hernandez shortly after he'd taken his own life. This 28-year-old was underneath a lot of pressure and very bad influences all throughout his time growing up, and Van Pelt covers a lot of those different angles. Well, the effectiveness, I believe, revolves around the relevance that it had to the time that it was recorded, and ultimately, I think that what makes it great sports writing is the various different angles that Van Pelt takes in trying to establish why Aaron Hernandez ultimately turned out the way that he was and left so many of us in wonder of what could have been. Now I'll reveal what are the qualities that I think best go into broadcast writing. So today I'll be giving my personal opinion on the top 10 qualities of making a great broadcast writer. With number 10, we have attention to detail. As with any profession, you're going to need to be precise in what you're sticking to and make sure that there's no overlap or things that could be taken out of context in your writing. With number 9, we have objective points of view. Being able to think objectively and not be swayed one way or the other or come across as biased is really critical in determining how effective you'll be in portraying your message. Number 8, understanding the pulse of the audience. First and foremost, you have to understand how your audience feels before you ever decide that you're going to go into the line of determining your own opinion and how you're going to convey it. Uses research well. I think that it's pretty well stated that anybody that can actually hone in on the research that they have and understand how to portray it and when to use it and at what angles to use it from is ultimately going to be the most successful in this line of work. Number 6, accepts what needs to be said. There's going to be a lot of people that understand what needs to be said, but ultimately accepting it and being willing to put it into action and verbalize it, or be willing to put it to writing for it to be verbalized, ultimately tests the true character of a broadcast writer. Number 5, provides genuine yet unique insight. Now more than ever, you see broadcast writers that are not only inauthentic, but the opinions that they do have are generic and lacking in nature. We need to be blazing new trails with our writing, not just ramming back over the old ground. Number 4, shows effort towards relatability. When you notice your audience and you felt the pulse of them, then you have an idea of what's relatable to them. Making efforts to break into their mind and understand where they're coming from is ultimately the key to keeping a loyal audience. Number 3, stays relevant. What you want to say and what your audience is interested in hearing ultimately in your mind has to find a middle ground as a broadcast writer in order to have the most effectiveness behind what you're trying to say. Number 2, not afraid yet respectful. Respect is for those who deserve it, not for those who demand it. So an audience who is going to be seeking out what you have to say is worthy of being respected because they're not demanding that you tell them the truth that they have conjured up in their own mind. And finally, number 1, the ability to tell a story. There's been many people that have been hired on in their places of business now as in terms of broadcast writing, simply due to the fact that they can deliver a solid story with just the facts that they've been given and the context in which they've been given it.
So, some examples that come from this piece of writing. Van Pelt has a moment of recall where he dates back to early on in Hernandez and Gronkowski's career when he had the chance to meet both of them and showed that he didn't really perceive anything about Hernandez by the way that he portrayed himself as being anything related to what he truly was. There's something of not only achieving relevance, but also looking at it from various different people's points of view. He plays to both sides of the audience, those that have no tolerance for the way that he acted in the course of his life, and those that were simply wanting to understand why he did the things that he did. Van Pelt also points to his lack of a father figure, the bad influences that he had throughout the course of his life. He also tells a story about really looking into what made Hernandez who he was. There's a lot of different aspects that he covers throughout this that tells a story and delivers it to the audience, whether they're coming from one camp or the other, and really just tries to meet in the middle. Not trying to give any sympathy, but also trying to give vantage points as to why things turned out the way that they did. An outstanding piece of writing, and I'm glad I was able to present a few viewpoints.